y'all.
Hey.
Welcome. What's up, twisted people? We have got so much to talk about when it comes to WandaVision, episode 4, titled We Interrupt This Program. And the program was definitely interrupted when it comes to all the things we found out about what's going on behind the scenes and perhaps who's actually controlling things. Although we've got some theories on whether or not that's completely what we saw was everything we got this episode. Some revelations, some things we all had some hints on, but we got to dive into it. So once again, I'm your girl, Twisted Woman CKR, aka Chauncey K Robinson, and I am here with my awesome brother and comic book lover, Damon Robinson, D-Rock-a-Block.
That's right. What's going on?
He is here.
How y'all doing?
Yes, and we are getting into episode 4. Once again, thank you all who are joining us in the live chat and those of you who are watching the replay. It is always appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And also be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you're liking it in the other videos. And, you know, we post regularly. I post things all about horror. I got a new review up about the Queen of Black Magic that you should definitely check out, that is coming and is on exclusively on Shudder right now. That is a treat. We love all things horror here as well. And there's some horror stuff going on in WandaVision, Damon. There's a lot. There is some stuff that I was like, I'm a little creeped out. This is like, what is going on? We saw zombie Vision. I didn't know. I was kind of surprised, but we'll get to that in a second. So the question I want to pose to all of you who are watching the live chat and those of you who are watching the replay, as we asked in the beginning of this little game we play, which is basically, which character did you identify with the most in this episode? Or which character did you like the most in this particular episode? And which character were you not feeling as much in this particular episode? So let us know. Think about that as we start talking about this and diving into it. And we already got some people in the chat telling us, I told you so, which is going around all around on the internet. There's a lot of I told you so's happening with fanboys and fangirls and everyone in between when it comes to some of the things that were revealed. Red Eyes, thanks for joining us in the chat. Red Eyes is saying, hey guys, let me start by saying I told you so about Wanda. Okay, but let me say, and I'm going to say I told you so later too, when other people were saying Monica was well aware, I was the one that said she wasn't aware. And I think we were proving that she didn't know what was going on until it came through. And I also think, Red Eyes and others, you may want to hold that I told you so until we really know if Wanda is the main one. Because I got some theories that maybe she isn't the only one controlling these things. So we got to dive into it. And that's what we're going to do. And also, you know, to let y'all know, if you're liking what you see and you want to give a little super chat, you know, support to the channel and to this chat and to this video, please do so as well. Let us know. I'll give you a shout out as well. And let me know if you subscribe and during this, and I'll also give you a shout out as well. Okay. So, Damon, overall thoughts of episode 4 of WandaVision.
I mean, I know I said that the third one was my best episode, but I believe this one is my favorite. Just because it let us know what was going on. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This one was I interrupt this what was the title of it?
We interrupt this program.
We interrupt this program because all of the 50s through 70s sitcom stuff, we didn't see none of that this episode. Mm-hmm. So we got to see the real world. All the things that happened after the snap, you know. I like that better. The snap. Yeah. So we got to see stuff that happened after the snap. I mean, is that like the first time we've seen how people come back? How people came back from the snap, though?
I think I think they showed that
they just showed them
the Avengers in the game. Yeah, showed, in the final one. No, you're right. You're right.
The first time we've seen people, you know, so that was great.
Yeah, that was great. That was very cool.
You know, that I was like, wow.
We saw people actually coming back from the snap. And that's a very good point that you made, that I think that was the first time we saw on screen regular people coming back from the snap and things like that. So that's very, very true. And and we're seeing a lot of the behind the scenes. And I have to echo what you're saying in saying that I was one of the people who really enjoyed the sitcom aspect of it. I love meta stuff. So that's kind of what we got with this. We had the sitcom inverse thing where it's kind of a parody. We're aware of it. And then with this one, we kind of got the meta version of people watching the sitcom and having conversations about what was happening on screen and getting invested in the plot lines and things like that, which I thought was really fun to watch. And I felt like I really enjoyed this episode because it kind of, like you were saying, it brought a lot of things together. Although I also will say it also brought about a lot of more questions, because we got shown some stuff and we got told some stuff, but there was some stuff that we were still not told, glaringly so, about certain residents in New Jersey. And I think you and I, Damon, being Newark, New Jersey natives, have to love the fact that, of course, Wanda picked the town in New Jersey to do this too. I love that. I was like, New Jersey, of course. And so I was liking that. I liked a lot of the revelation, but it left me with a lot of questions, and I'm excited to get into those. And I've got some theories, and it was nice seeing other characters. Certain characters came into the scene, like James Woo from Off the Boat, the ABC show Off the Boat. So
Ant-Man and
Ant-Man as well. So he's in this show, and I loved his character. And
one of my favorite characters from the MCU,
Dr. Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes. She showed up, and she was a lot of fun to watch. And so I really like that this rounded it out, because for a time this felt a little, I think what I had been seeing online is a lot of people being like, I kind of like this. I don't know what's happening. I remember talking to people online who were saying, I don't know where this is going, because a lot of people only had the MCU reference. They only had the Marvel Cinematic Universe reference. And I mean, that's how it was, in the 10 years that MCU built up its thing, which referenced the comics, but not so much you had to read the comics. And I think they had leaned on that so much. And in this particular program, you had it so, well, you kind of have to be a little familiar with the comics to kind of get some of these references. And I think that maybe the first time that's been the kind of case here with an MCU product.
Yeah, they do like the little eggs and stuff. Some of the stuff they do point towards a lot of the comic book things. A lot of them. From the beginning, from the first episode, there was a lot of little Easter eggs that pointed towards comic book references.
Yes,
more so than MCU movie references.
Exactly.
Even though I'm thinking just by the stuff that's going on that they kind of setting up other things. Mm-hmm. Mentioning certain characters and stuff. I mean, you have to really be looking to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's I think this episode it basically gave us the answer key to the first 3 episodes.
Yes, it gave us the behind the scenes, the answer to a certain things that we didn't get to see. And there's still some stuff that those who are behind the scenes, who are out there at the sword terrain, setup shop, don't know themselves. Like, what they didn't see the rewinds that we saw in the first couple episodes. So we'll talk about that as well. And people are saying in the chat, thanks for joining us in the chat, y'all. Michael Damien saying, I'm actually getting interested in Marvel again, which was hard to do after they ruined Spider-Man and X-Men when I was in high school. I know, different terrain back in 2006. I think Red Eyes is saying with the snap, I think this is what Red Eyes is referring to, that I think in Spider-Man Far From Home, maybe we got to see people come back from the snap. So perhaps
you did.
I didn't want, I'll admit.
About that guy, the guy, he was like, people who was gone came back the same age, and everybody else grew like 5 years.
3 years.
No, 5.
It was 5?
Yeah,
okay.
5 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. That's what he said.
But that confused me then, because they said Monica had been missing for 3 years. They didn't say 5.
2, right?
No, they said Monica was missing for 3 years.
3, but she disappeared 2 years before her mother died, right?
Yes. But her mom died 2 years
3
in the
years
3
ago,
years.
right?
Okay. Math. I'm not the best at it. You guys, sure. 5 years. It was a 5-year gap, sure. So we got a lot of behind the scenes, not so much of what's new. We just basically got everything that we needed to know in a way about the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping we still get some sitcom-y good stuff of like 80s and 90s, but we'll see if that actually happens. But okay, we both seem to have really enjoyed the first this fourth episode, and I think this episode really got us back into the MC universe in terms of things going on, what's going on with Sword, which we'll talk about, what's going on with Marie, and how it connects to Captain Marvel. And speaking of Captain Marvel, for those of you who are watching, I put up a picture of Monica Rambeau as Captain Marvel. We talked about it a little bit. I didn't want to get into it too much in the first 3 live streams because I didn't know, how much they were going to. And, if that's for people who weren't aware of it, I didn't want to say, oh, that's Monica, but she's named Geraldine. But we got the reveal this episode that is indeed Monica Rambeau, Maria Rambeau's daughter. And I'm a little sad that they killed Maria off by cancer. I don't know. It's something to me about superhero stuff. Maybe she didn't want to get a cure or something like that. Maybe they'll talk about that in Captain Marvel 2022, because I just feel like with everything they're able to do, why didn't Marie maybe get some help from the Captain Marvel we already have in terms of curing something or whatever? But maybe she wanted to go the tried and true natural way. I don't know.
It makes it seem like she either founded
Sword, and I love that. I love that. When the new director Tyler Hayward came up, he's like, your mother built this from the ground up. I was like, yes, and hopefully we'll see that. So we had he said a lot of little things when I listened to him that made me think about how they could do stuff to bring other Marvel characters in. Mm-hmm. Who could just by some of the characters they already got in here, they could be linked to them. Yes, I think they opened. This MCU, they're trying to work their magic. Yeah, no, I mean that's what we're getting with Phase 4. I feel like they're opening up to a lot for Phase 4 that we'll be getting. And Monica Rambeau just looks awesome. She is a character that has made her first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man in 1982, and now she's gone by different names. She's gone by Photon, Pulsar, and others, and so she is. In the comics, we'll see, because what we also know, as you can see, she's suited up and things like that. We got no reference to that in episode 4. But Monica is supposed to become Captain Marvel in some capacity. She is slated to be in the Captain Marvel 2 movie in 2022. And in the comics, she gets her power by a blast of energy that kind of similar to what happened to Captain Marvel, right? Blast of energy hits and, she gets these powers and whatnot. We don't know necessarily how that's they may remix it. They remix a lot of things in the MCU, but we do know that Monica Rambeau is a future slated superhero. But right now she is simply sorry, I hit my keyboard. She is simply she is a Sword agent. So that's where we're at right now. So she's actually she followed in the footsteps of her mother, and yes. So she fly planes, she flies spaceships, basically. She's a captain. She's awesome. Yeah. I mean, she's very awesome. And it's so cool to see an emerging Black woman superhero taking such a central role in the MCU. I love Valkyrie, and hopefully we'll get more of her in Thor, but it's nice to see Maria up in here, Monica up in here as well. And Maria, her mother doing some great things in the past. So let's jump right into the episode itself. So we have room 104. That is where Monica is, and she comes back from the snap, because clearly the snap came when she was sitting there in the hospital waiting for her mom to come out of surgery. Mm-hmm. Or when she had got the thing from the doctor that the surgery went well. And that in the timeline that I just totally messed up a few minutes ago was basically after that surgery, her mother had beat the cancer, but then in the 2 years or so that Monica was within the snap, the cancer came back and her mother passed away while she was there.
Yeah.
While she was gone, which is equally sad. And maybe we'll see Monica deal with that a bit more, that she didn't get to say goodbye to her mother. But that was very poignant. So we get this thing, and we get this very cool scene of all these characters coming back. People coming back in the hospital. It was so chaotic. It was just like people are coming back. People don't know what's going on. They were sick at the time. They're looking around like, where have I been? You know, the doctor was like, we have too much incapacity. We don't know what is going on right now. I couldn't even imagine what would be happening at this moment. But we also know on the timeline that this has happened, of course, right at the end of Avengers Endgame, that penultimate movie that Scarlet Witch was in, right?
Yeah.
After they've defeated Thanos. This is right after that. So Monica has come back. Dr. Haley tells her that her mother has died. And we jump forward perhaps a couple of weeks, and she's at SWORD headquarters. And she's trying to get through, but her card isn't working. The security guard gives her a little sass for some reason.
Like if you work here, your card will work.
Your card will work. And then director Tyler Hayward comes around and they talk, you know. So we get a little bit about SWORD at that moment. And it was interesting, Damon, because they actually referenced something you had mentioned in the last 3 episodes, which was the change. And they actually addressed it, which I thought was really good that they addressed it, because I think this is the respect to the comic book fans and those who know the history of, you know, why would they change that depending on what they had to do. And probably also, now that we're going into phase 4 of the MCU, that we'll probably be getting a lot more intergalactic battles and stuff, that SWORD may have to change its trajectory yet again, probably back to its original intent, right? So I feel like that conversation was poignant, that they had it where, and Monica seemed a little bit against that they switched. She was saying, like, well, there's still things to explore out there. There's still allies and things, and not just weapons, sentient weapons and things.
Yeah. Did you catch that when he was like, well, it's like we had people out there, but after the what he called it, the blip, but
something like that.
It's like after the blip, we barely had people still out there, you know, in space to do I guess whatever they sent them out there for. But so I was thinking about that one line right there, and like it all depends, because you got some characters in MCU that were like astronauts, and that's how they got their powers and stuff. Like just for instance, they say you got Reed Richards and them in the spaceship out there. They was snapped away, and then they came back, and now ain't nobody driving that. So flying that spaceship, so it's flying off anywhere where it's going. So just think about it. They come back and run into that gamma ray storm. Now you have Fantastic Four.
Yes.
You.
There's so many ramifications of what could come about, like you're saying, with the snap getting reversed and what would happen now. And I think that's probably why they had the conversation about SWORD, because they're going to have it so SWORD starts looking at the intergalactic things, the things in space again, even though it got, you know, switched within the MCU, that it might have to go back to its original comic origin, which was looking more to the stars and the space. So I think it's important that they had that conversation, and we may need to keep that in mind. Red Eyes is saying in the chat, it sucks how her mom found it and ran SWORD, but because she got snapped, that random white dude took the job that should have been hers, Monica's. Yes.
He admitted that, though. He basically admitted that.
He did say it.
Yeah, nobody else did.
He was like, they didn't really have a choice. He was like, I was the only one who was available, you know. So at least he knows it should have been Monica that took it over. So then we jump to the fact that Monica gets grounded. She's no longer, and for those of you who are watching, I put up another cool cover of a little bit more of an updated cover of Captain Marvel. This one's in the 2000s, a little bit more of an updated.
The fro is gone, and she's
got braids now. Fun fact. Monica Rambeau was supposed to be modeled after Pam Grier, the 70s, 80s, the 60s, 70s, 80s icon of like beautiful Black woman.
So and I can see that from the first pic. The first one you showed was really coffee brown. I think
but what's funny about that is at the last minute, some other person besides the main artist came in and was like, well, we need to model her after someone else. And he got another model who they thought was better looking than Pam Grier, as if. And so the guy was like, okay, because the original artist wanted it to look like Pam Grier because he thought Pam Grier was like amazing. But they tried to get some more generic model or whatever. But I guess throughout the time, they kind of switched it back and whatnot. So fun fact about how it was supposed to look like Pam Grier originally from onset. But, some powers that be had some issues for whatever reason. So then, we jump to the fact that Monica is grounded and she gets an assignment in New Jersey, of all places. Can you imagine being someone who flies spaceships and then gets sent to New Jersey for an assignment? No, I mean, I love Jersey, but they make a lot of jokes about Jersey a lot of time, about the small townness of it. And so she has to go to Westview, New Jersey, and she meets there FBI James E. Woo. And automatically, we just love James. James is fun. Yes, he is there. Also, Cage is saying, thanks for joining us in the chat. Cage is saying, that sounds like a good way to introduce the Fantastic Four to me, speaking to what Damon spoke to earlier. There's so many ways that they can introduce.
They already said that it's a movie coming, a Fantastic Four movie.
Might be some years off, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we get James Woo, and he's talking to some New Jersey cops, and he tells her, yeah, we got this thing. There's this, thing going on. And just talk to these cops. Monica goes up to the cops. The cops tells her there is no Westview. Mind you, they're standing right next to the sign of Westview, which is so eerie to me. Rod saying in the chat, thanks for joining us, Rod. I was so excited to see Woo. I think we all were. He's such a fun character. And the cops are like, and then Monica's like, okay, if you're not from Westview, then where are you from? And they're like, Eastview. And it's like, huh? Like, I was just like, okay, this is weird. So, so that was, we're going to get to Darcy in a second, Red Eyes, because I think a lot of people were excited to see her as well from the Thor franchise. And so the cops drive off. So they seemingly drive back into Westview. Okay, so the cops drive off. They seemingly drive into Westview. Monica's asking Woo, why haven't you gone in there yet? And Woo straight up tells her, he's like, you don't feel that? It feels like we ain't supposed to be in there. He's like, you don't feel that feeling of we aren't invited? So then Monica sends off. So this is where it starts, where we start getting throwbacks to the first three episodes. Right? Our first clue right there. So Monica sends off the drone, the sword drone, and this is it gets lost, it disappears, and this is what is connected to the second episode where Wanda had found the red sword thing that was turned into a toy to match the aesthetics of the sitcom, right? So that's our first clue that that those little things that we had got in the first three episodes, that it was coming from outside trying to infiltrate. We also are told that Westview has about 3,000 residents there, and 3,000 plus residents that all have kind of, because other people on the outside of Westview, we also learn, are being affected as well. Their memories. Everyone's getting selective amnesia.
They don't know that it exists.
They don't know it exists. They don't remember anyone who's actually in that town, which shows you this is an issue, right? Not just the fact that, okay, some whole town has been commandeered, but they've also been wiped from the memories of everyone, which is significant. So we get that. And And Roz asking, was it explained how Wu ended up in Westview? I don't remember. I think he just basically said he got assigned by the FBI to be there.
Yeah. Because remember,
yeah.
What was his name? Hartwood, the God, the sword guy. He said we're gonna send you to help the FBI out. They got a missing persons case.
Yeah, Hayward told her. Yeah,
he was the FBI. I guess the FBI agent assigned to that case.
Yeah, so that's how he got there, and so we basically get Monica. I don't know if I thought this was smart what she did, but she goes up, she touches it, and she's like, "That's the force field," and then she put her hand in. Now I kind of side-eyed that. I was like, "Now, Monica, you're supposed to be one of the smartest people."
But it actually goes with her character. You think about the little girl.
True, she's very cute.
It goes with her character.
Yeah,
she's that gung ho.
That is very true. It very much goes with her character being the type to kind of go leap first, maybe think a little later. So Monica then gets swept into the force field and she disappears. And funny enough, I will say what's interesting about that is that even though people got swept into the town and they were forgotten, Monica gets swept in and she's still remembered on the outside, which is something. So I don't know, that must be perhaps because she wasn't originally from the town or something, because, other people were forgetting the people who lived in the town, but Monica goes in and she's still remembered by the people who from Sword and everybody. So I don't know if that was just a weird coincidence or whatnot. So she gets in there. 24 hours later, they set up shop. They're like, Sword is there. They set up shop. And then we see Darcy Lewis, Dr. Darcy Lewis from Thor and other ones. And she is there, the astrophysicist, and she's already quipping and things like that. And it's very fun. And she, of course, is the one who goes there, pretty much starts figuring stuff out, even though there's all these men.
Right away.
All these men and things like that who basically don't know what they're doing to a certain degree. And so she goes there and she realizes, she claims that there is a heavy amount of CMBR, which is cosmic microwave background radiation.
Yeah.
And so we get and what we get explained later is that this radiation was around since the Big Bang theory.
Yeah.
So it's radiation that has been there since the beginning of time, since things started. And also the wave is where a lot of the old school TV channels and stuff.
Actually in that wave, she found a wavelength transmitting in that.
Within it. Okay, the TV. So there was something else transmitting in it. And that's how she was like, I need an old school TV because it's picking up. That's the only way I can pick up whatever this thing is sending out. Roz, with the theory of what I was just saying about Monica, she was saying maybe it is her being remembered has to do with her powers coming. Perhaps. I mean, it's kind of weird because we also got to talk about that one agent they sent, and we got no discussion about him after he disappeared. So we got to talk about how come Monica's remembered and they can't remember the other agent that went in later, the swarm guy who kind of just disappeared.
They didn't mention him, but they did.
They robbed it back, but they looked at it.
It turned to a jump rope.
But no one ever said, well, where's the other guy? They just kept focusing on Monica.
Yeah, well, he's like a what do you call him? A Henson on Star Trek. They know.
Yeah, like I said, he's a red shirt. Red shirts get killed. They're gonna go out first if something happens to them. Star Trek reference. Yeah, exactly. So basically they get the TV. They also send people through the sewer because Taylor's like, well, maybe we can get them from underneath. And Wu's like, do you really think if it's that? Right. And he was right. He was like, you don't think it's subterranean. And Taylor was saying, he was like, well, we don't know if it is or not. So we have to try. And so they send the agent there in the thing. And that is our second thing from the first few shows, because that guy in the second one who became the bee suit was actually an original agent who was sent in there, and his cord was turned into an old school jump rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess being that for him to dress the way he was to come out that sewer, for them, I guess for that time, they just made it seem like that suit was a beekeeper suit.
Yeah, and I know there was some theories that people thought that this was an evil guy or something like that, but we see that he wasn't anyone necessarily significant. He was just an agent who went there.
That guy been an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. before as the same. I don't know if it was the same name, but he's basically the same type of character.
Yeah, basically.
You know, the throwaway guy.
He was a red shirt. Poor red shirt.
Look, also, you notice when they took a picture of the town that it was shaped in a hexagram.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yes,
it town, was shaped in a hexagram.
Yeah, the town is shaped like a hexagram.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, remember?
Okay, that has to go towards our theory.
Yeah,
that has to go toward because that goes back to what you were saying.
Yeah, and also what I was saying about the place may be, well, it came in and just went out. Salem.
You think Westview may be old school Salem?
I mean, not the actual Salem, but you know, the survivors from that witch thing.
Okay. Well, let's jump into that with our theories. Let's stick to what we see. I didn't see that thing about the hexagram though. Yeah. That's really good eyes because I did not notice that was a hexagram at all. Okay. That's something. Yeah. Diane Williams in the chat, thanks for joining us. She's saying she loved the episode. We love the episode too. And Red Eyed saying, who wrote that on the board? Why a hexagram? See, I was trying to see what he wrote on the board. The main thing I got was why is this? Yeah, it was one of those things where you probably had to pause it, or I probably would have had to need to pause it to be like. Yeah, because he was. Yeah, you're right. He was saying why a hexagram? Why? How is Vision still alive? Things like that. I saw those things that.
Yeah, he had a scroll. He had scroll written up there. He had it said extraterrestrials. He had scroll written up there.
The scroll, from Captain Marvel. Yeah,
which is a good link because she got the kids. It's it's like they. I'm like, yo, it's like a lot of things
going on. Yeah, I agree.
Right now.
So we got so basically, you know, it goes on. We see the radio signals, and that's when Darcy is noticing the jump cuts. You know, she's like, what is going on? We should have seen this moment, but we didn't. One of the things that we should have seen because they sent a radio signal.
Yeah.
And this connects back to episode 2 when Wanda was talking to Dottie, and that moment happened where in the radio comes a voice, and we find out in this episode that it was Woo's voice saying, Wanda, who is doing this to you? Wanda, who is doing this to you?
Yeah.
What is actually transmitted for broadcast isn't any of that. It just jumps from them looking kind of weird, Dottie saying, I don't trust you, to Dottie being like, how do you get blood out of a handkerchief? You do it yourself. And Darcy's like, what just happened? Did it not go through? So they kind of think they failed.
No, she said somebody. No, she said somebody censoring.
Someone censoring. Exactly. Like what's happening here? Someone censoring.
And we didn't see that Darcy was the one at the end of episode. Was that episode 1 at the end who was watching the program?
Yes, that was also a thing. Yeah. Darcy, from the first episode, we saw someone put their notepad down and write something and then close the notepad. We find out in this episode that was Darcy who was watching the show. So a lot of stuff is coming full circle from the first 3 episodes, at least. And others in the chat are saying that this show with the New Jersey town being secluded and everything is reminding them of Under the Dome. Michael Damian was saying it's like Under the Dome, but better executed. And Rod's agreeing with that sentiment because, as we have seen in the first 3 episodes, citizens are saying we can't get out. It's kind of hard to get out of here, you know? And so we see the radio signal actually came from Darcy and Woo, and that got edited out. And the bee suit was also something. And then they, you know, within the midst of this episode, they see Monica reappear. And of course, she doesn't look like the Monica that went in there. And so there's this question of, does she know what's going on? And this is where, you know, we were going back and forth with I told you so's and stuff.
I wonder why she picked, because we're seeing that evidently nobody's name is anybody's real name in there.
Yes.
Because I'm wondering, like, why did she pick Geraldine? But you know, then when he said, "Oh, this guy is Beverly,"
yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was Geraldine. No one has their real names in this show. I mean, in the WandaVision show, no one gets their real names. And so this is I told you. So I was saying, because a lot of people were like, Monica's aware, she's been there undercover the whole time. I was saying, because of the way she brought up to Wanda about Ultron, that it seemed like that came from out of nowhere and she wasn't aware. And I was like, something's weird here that she can't remember that she would say something like that. And I said, I was like, if she's an agent, would she really let something slip like that out to someone who they thought was volatile? And it turns out I was right. She didn't know.
She wasn't aware, but she was an agent.
She was an agent. Now, I agree. She was, but she didn't. It wasn't like she was sit inside to find out. She mistakenly went inside to find, and she ended up getting swept up in the situation. What's also telling is that in episode 3, we realized Agnes and Herb were well aware that Geraldine didn't belong. They were even saying she doesn't have a home. They realized. So we also are getting a sense that the citizens there kind of have an idea that something's not right with what's going on, where they are. And so we got that aspect of it. I think another thing to point out before we get to how Wanda ejected Monica is them naming the citizens of the town. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the theory section and the Easter egg section, comic book comparison. But they named a lot of the townspeople, right? We found out that Vision's boss and his wife were also from New Jersey. We found out Herb, real name is, I think, Ralph from New Jersey. His name is
John Collins.
John from New Jersey. We found out a lot of the friends and stuff. There were 3 glaring ones that did not get named at all, which the main glaring one to me was Agnes. Agnes never got named. They had her photo up on the thing, but they never found out whether there was never anything that said from New Jersey. And I think that may relate to or more so yours, Damon, your theory that Agnes is someone from the comics when it comes to her connection to Scarlet Witch. Because how come they can name everyone else except the main neighbor? Agnes is the main neighbor. She's always in the episode, right? She's like who's the secondary person to Lucy? I love Lucy.
No.
Wasn't Dorothy.
I know I said no.
Well, anyway, the secondary woman, Wilma. Was it Wilma? No,
she like 60 from what's the name?
Lucy's right hand girl, basically, right? That's who Agnes is to Wanda, and somehow they can name everyone else, but they could not point out.
We can't remember,
right?
That.
And I loved her, right? Who was
Fred.
Right, Fred. Oh man, let us know in the chat who's Lucy's right hand woman, y'all, because that just totally went on our heads. But Ethel, thank you, Michael. Ethel. Agnes is Wanda's Ethel, right? Yet somehow we don't know who she is. You would think that she would be one of the first people they would find, since she's supposed to be the main neighbor. Yet her picture's up there and they still don't know who she is. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when it comes to going back to our theory about who she might actually be, because she wasn't named. The other 2 that wasn't named was Dottie, who played Anya from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And that's cool, because I honestly think you don't bring someone who played from Buffy the Vampire Slayer if she's not supposed to play a significant part, but maybe I could just be wrong. But they didn't name her either.
No, I think she will. I think she is.
Yeah, they didn't name Dottie, but they named Dottie's husband. They knew who Phil. Dottie's husband Phil. They had him, but they didn't have who Dottie was, and they also never told us who Agnes' husband was, who we have yet to see on screen.
Yes.
Who she always references, but we never see.
Yeah.
Rod saying in the chat, the guy in the hazmat suit was tethered to a rope, but when he entered, his suit was changed to a bee suit and was held by a jump rope that ended up breaking. Exactly. He was made into the thing, but she rewound it. So does that mean she kicked the guy out too? And why didn't we see him?
Exactly.
Right? Where did this guy go?
Don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, and Josh Watson is asking me in the chat, did I like Buffy? Oh, I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And that's why it's so great to see when Joss Whedon, he's been part of the, Marvel. He wrote, he did I think he did the first Avengers, didn't he? Didn't Joss Whedon do the first Avengers? He's been involved in the MCU, right? So it makes sense that he brings people in.
A lot.
Yeah, and so it's always fun to see. I'm waiting for Sarah Michelle Gellar somehow to get up in there, but it's always been fun to see. And I think if Anya is in there from Buffy, that she's probably going to play a significant role of some type, but we'll see where that actually goes. And so we got the thing that we don't know these three people. They named everyone else, but we don't know who these three people are. And I think that's significant. So we need to keep a hold on to that. And then we finally see Wanda, what happened when Wanda ejected Monica, which was rough.
Yeah.
What did you think of that scene? I was a little creeped out.
It was really like our very first bit of action in there. Violent action. She became the Wanda we're used to seeing in the MCU.
Yes. Roll the thing like you ain't a friend.
You seen it in the eyes, like, hold up. It was good. And also that's when we realized that Monica didn't know what was going on. She didn't even understand why she was there. I think by the end of it probably was coming to her. I guess we'll figure that out next episode.
Yeah. So, that was very significant, her being rejected. Like Wanda did not care. She made her go through. No wonder she came out like this, like kind of, because she had just gotten hit in the back with multiple walls.
The bookcase, the wall, the gate, the next gate.
That is what threw me off. Because when she first got ejected out, when we saw suddenly she wasn't there, she got ejected out. And she was on the ground. I was like, well, shouldn't she still be awake? If she just got basically transported away and she landed. But seeing how she actually really got ejected the way she did, I was like, no wonder she passed out. I was like, she threw her through bricks and walls. That looked significant. And I loved the way it looked. I'm not happy it happened to Monica, but it needed to happen, right? That is what set it off for us to get episode 4 of We Interrupt This Program. And so we see what happens is after she gets rid of her, I'm going to say Wanda still looked a little dazed, because this is the thing. And I got a few theories about Wanda wasn't aware when Monica came in. You know what I mean? She clearly she wasn't aware who Monica was. Until she slipped up or until Monica's things came up. And this is where I know at the end of this episode, people were like, well, Wanda's the one in control. And of course, Monica, because she just got thrown out by Wanda, is probably going to think the same thing. But I do wonder if Wanda is in as much control as the main one with an end game here, for lack of a better term, because of Avengers Endgame. And maybe there is still someone playing, doing some things behind the scenes and using or manipulating Wanda to do this for some other ends. And we also, I put a sad face, y'all, in my notes because we saw zombie Vision, which threw me off. I was not expecting that. When she turned around and we saw Vision without his thing and basically gray, and she was like, I was like, oh, my heart hurt, because I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to see Vision dead. Honestly, my hope is somehow in the end of this series, like in the comics, and we'll talk about this, that Wanda has a way of bringing him back somehow.
I believe he got to be back because he's the only one that's in there that's like, something ain't right. He constantly, something ain't right. Even in this episode, he looked at her like, something just ain't right. Like, I'm gonna go with it because of the love I have for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's like he made that decision. Like, I'm gonna go ahead with you. But it seemed like he got some, for him to be dead and for her to sing without the thing in his head. He seemed like he got some type of consciousness of It's something wrong here.
Some kind of autonomy away from Wanda. And that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I think there has to be something, a part of him who's just like not exactly all Wanda necessarily. Because if that was the case, why would he be kind of like, what's going on? Why are you, kind of having his own thoughts, right? Cage is saying in the chat, yeah, Zombie Vision was well designed. And let me know, y'all, in the chat and also in the replay, thank you for watching, your thoughts about seeing Vision. And if you think there's a chance that we might get Vision back somehow, because it would suck to go through all of this and somehow Wanda doesn't get Vision back and all of this.
He probably won't be the same. It's actually a colorless or gray light Vision. So maybe when he comes back, he'll be that, not the red Vision that we used to.
But a kind of different version of some sort. Red Eyes is saying in the chat, she brought him back, but he's still burnt in reality. But this is the thing. What's reality right now? Clearly, Wanda can control reality. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about what some of these theories are and how they can have lasting effects, not just on a small town in New Jersey, but the world over, right? And Cage is saying, I hope we don't end up with all white Vision. I like the old school one. Yeah. Maybe they'll change his coloring or something like that. And yeah, it's just very creepy what we're seeing. I was like, this got some horror elements in it, and I am here for it. As y'all know, I am a horror girl through and through. Ra is saying in relation to Monica, when Monica was booted out of WandaVision, she remembered Wanda, so maybe she'll develop powers. She might, but I don't know if they're going to focus on Monica getting powers in this one. I think that's going to happen in the Captain Marvel movie. I think this is more focused on Wanda's situation, and I kind of want her to get her powers when there's a bigger budget.
Honestly, yeah,
from the movie.
Honestly, I don't think she gets it in the second cap, because actually Monica becoming Captain Marvel means the end of the first Captain Marvel. So unless they plan on killing her in Captain Marvel too, we ain't gonna see Monica get them powers till later on. Maybe around the secret invasion time. We'll see her get some power.
Maybe. Yeah. Red Eyes is saying outside of the bubble is reality. Nothing in the bubble is real. But see, I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because as we saw, people are having selective amnesia, right? That means what Wanda does in that bubble affects what happens on the outside, because people on the outside suddenly couldn't remember people who were in this bubble. So what does that mean? It means that somehow this penetrates our real world. And we'll talk about that in a bit with House of M, which we'll get into. But
what I wonder how did why did Geraldine actually, Monica go to the house? Maybe it is somebody else, because why would she go to the house to start to tell Wanda about a job? If Wanda didn't know she's there, then I guess she don't really have a plot line.
I don't know. That's what's so weird about it. Geraldine had a whole backstory and stuff to tell her. So who gave her that?
Who gave her that? If you didn't know that she was in there.
If Wanda didn't realize Monica wasn't supposed to, who drew her in, right? Wu was saying, don't you feel that someone doesn't want us in there? Yet Monica gets sucked in. Why was Monica the one that was sucked in? Mm-hmm. And then Wanda doesn't realize who she is until that slip up, and then violently kicks her out. So that brings into question, is Wanda the main one running the show?
Did somebody just do it so whatever they did to make Monica go to this, so Wanda would find her out and expel her and send her out of there? Maybe
to kind of give a warning.
Threat that's in there to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So maybe that was planned like that. Whoever else is in there.
Yeah. Cage is saying, well, the rumors are Rogue will be in Captain Marvel too. So it could end with Captain Marvel losing her powers and Monica gaining the powers while Carol Danvers is in a coma. Yeah, there's a lot of rumors going on about how this is all going to play out. But I think...
Hey, what's not a rumor is Evan Peters going to be in this WandaVision. He's on the cast list.
Oh, so you found out that Evan Peters is definitely...
We don't know who he's going to be, but that's not a rumor.
Okay, so for sure...
Yeah.
Okay. So for those who didn't get to that part in the live stream last week, Damon had a little bit of a scoop that Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in the Fox version of X-Men, is set to be in WandaVision. Yeah. And so we don't know exactly who he's playing. It could be a whole new character, but it could also be a version of Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So that might also be a thing. Blue Wolf in the chat, thanks for joining us, Blue Wolf, is saying she warped reality for so long that different realities are bleeding into each other. That is also an aspect of it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, we're getting, and there's a lot of theories, Red Eyes has theory, Blue Wolf, and let us know your theories in the replay and also in the chat as well. And Diane is very happy with your scoop, Damon, that Evan Peters is going to be in WandaVision. Oh my God, I love Evan Peters, Diane says. Yay. We're also excited. I love him in American Horror Story, so that'll be awesome to see him.
He could be a bad guy. He could come in to be a bad guy.
He could. I mean, and we also have multi-universe stuff going on in Marvel.
Could be the Quicksilver.
So we don't know. Who knows what Wanda's doing could mess with the multiverse. Who knows?
Look, we could come. The next episodes could be back to the sitcom type. And how many times in sitcom do they just put a new person in there and be like, "This is that"? She could go back to that, and he could pop up like he's Petro.
Yeah, that is very true. There's so many things they could do. Cage is saying Fox's Quicksilver was better. All right. We only got a little bit of Quicksilver in Ultron, so
then he died.
Yeah, then he died. He was kind of a red shirt in and of himself too for Wanda's story in that. Okay, so the way this episode ends is it looks like Wanda is in control. That's the way it looks like. Okay, and I'm putting that in that perspective, because Wanda tells Vision, "Don't worry, honey, I have everything under control."
Yeah. And she also said this is the only place
we can be.
We can live.
And that's the question too. Why New Jersey? Why? I mean, I love New Jersey, but why that place?
Why that place?
View in New
looks
Jersey?
Like a hexagon and has a barrier around it. Like, why?
Right? That is a hexagram. New Jersey, randomly, that is a hexagram. Like, why is that the only place? If she's as powerful as she is to take over a space, why that space? Why New Jersey? Why not the Appalachian Mountains or something? Why take over a whole town of people? If it's just about her and Vision, why not just bring him back in a cottage somewhere and they're living their lives and existing? Why do it so that they take over a whole town? And I know some people who, and we can segue into theories and comic book things and stuff like that, where some people are a little in the interwebs of the world are a little mad about this development. And let us know in the chat and also the replay as well. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, that they're not too happy with the way this is going, in the sense that some people are saying, why is it that Wanda has to seem like the crazy, scorned woman who does this damage to the world? When I first saw some of that outrage, I thought, I was like, well, that's kind of House of M, so it's not new necessarily, but I get the feeling of it being kind of tropey, that, she's so emotional, she can't control her stuff, so she just kind of does this thing with her powers. Hey, what do you think about that?
Things have happened. They made the most fearless character in this Marvel universe scared to come out. The Hulk would not come out, like he was likely afraid.
I still got issues with that. The Hulk would be afraid of somebody? I still got problems with that. I was like, come on.
The things they do, and we already see they do what they want to do. So if they want her to go crazy, she's gonna be the crazy superhero. They do what they want to do. You got to face it. We've seen it so much. Mm-hmm. We've seen it so much. They will forget. They will kill a character. They will act like a character don't exist. They
switch plot lines. They do what they want. What makes sense for the story.
They will ship characters together.
Yeah, they do.
Black. I'm like, in the Black Widow, right? I'm like,
that. Let's not even talk about that relationship of the Hulk and Black Widow. Made no sense.
Betty doesn't exist,
right? Betty, come on. Yeah, they did a lot of things. Maybe they didn't own Betty, but that's the problem too, right? Maybe that was the thing. Because Fox, or was it? So I think it's Sony.
And not own Betty.
Well, no, because Sony, it's a whole thing like we were talking about with the issue with Wanda not being Magneto's of the X-Men's daughter, because at the time, Disney did not own any of the X-Men, so they couldn't use it. And the same thing with Hulk. It's the same reason why we will never get a Hulk solo movie again, because he's owned by Sony, Sony or Fox, I think it's Sony, who's not trying to give them exact rights to Hulk. So they let Marvel borrow him to use in their thing. Same thing they do. Well, there's a little bit of a different thing with Spider-Man, because Sony actually owns Spider-Man, but they made an agreement with Marvel that they could do the movies for a couple of years. And then when their time is up, Sony would do probably a movie of bringing Venom and Spider-Man together. Capitalism, y'all. Just business corporations messing with our plot lines. But a little history for those of you who are wondering what's good with some of these characters. Kay just saying, I forgot which one. I just know it's not Disney that owns Hulk exclusively. So it's Universal that owns it. Hawk, Diana saying it's such a weak character. Yes, Hawk is a weak character. David might have a different of opinion.
No, that's she talking about. I think she's talking about Hawkeye. What she talking about?
Hawkeye.
That's what she was talking about, right?
Yeah.
The HWAH. Look, I think he's going to make an appearance in this too. They should, especially if they going by
House of M
and everything. And if you notice throughout this whole MCU, like he the one that always come talk to her. He always encouraging her. So they trying to already let you know from the comic book, because they got a thing. Mm-hmm. Hawkeye was actually in love with the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And they might play up on that.
I hope not. I love her and Vision, and they need to bring Vision back.
They is what it is, but
There was a comment earlier about Doctor Strange being able to bring Wanda out of that, and that's something we might see, because Wanda is set to be in the Doctor Strange movie. We just don't know under what situation, given what's happening right now.
We're gonna see that's not going by the comic book version, because Doctor Strange in the comic books, he delivers the twins. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So,
but he plays some type of part.
Yeah, he played. He probably. I believe he's going to play some type of part, because they're going to add her to his movie that's coming out, right?
Yes, she's in it.
So they're going. It just they didn't. I don't think they're going to go by, exactly by how the comic how it is in the comics. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going.
No, they remixed it. It's definitely remixed for sure. And for those of you who are watching, I brought up a picture of House of M, which we have to dive into as we segue into comic book and Easter egg and theory, predictions. So House of M, we talked about it a little bit in the first live stream of this series, where we talked about we had our theories on whether or not this was playing on House of M, which was a storyline in which Wanda, after going crazy in that one, the way it started, Wanda ends up going crazy because she finds out that her twins, who she forgot about, she was made to forget about, she finds out that her twins were the product or fragments of the soul of Mephisto.
Yeah, Mephisto.
Who is like a demon guy and whatnot like that. And that makes her go crazy. And so I think also in House of M, she had mistakenly, in her craziness, also mistakenly killed Vision or something like that as well. Something where Vision also dead.
Quicksilver's alive for the House of M.
Yeah, Quicksilver is alive for House of M, because Quicksilver is actually the one that suggests to Wanda, because Wanda's crazy. The X-Men exist during this time, because in this time frame, she is Magneto's daughter. Magneto, for those of you who are not aware of X-Men, he's like, very powerful X-Men, Charles Xavier's arch frenemy. And so Quicksilver, the X-Men, Wolverine, and all of them are basically have the decision to say the world is not going to like the idea that a mutant who can control reality and is as powerful as she is crazy. So what do we do? And so it was put out on the table to kill her, unfortunately. And around this time in House of M, she had the powers that we're kind of seeing now that we did not see. And I made a point of saying this. These are powers we did not see in MCU up to this point, right? Because in MCU, as we were saying, it seemed like she can control energy and stuff like that. But she wasn't able to control time, because if that was the case, why didn't she rewind stuff to save? Like she didn't do any of that, right? So that just wasn't an option for her in the MCU around Endgame and all of that.
But House of M is also after Agatha has came
Helped
in
her
and
out.
like a mentor.
Agatha, who you believe is Agnes.
Yeah.
And so,
my theory is that it is going off the House of M, being that there's no Quicksilver. Agnes is the one that convinced her to make your own reality here. Mm-hmm. That's why I think she knows. That's why she's saying. That's why she stopped her from letting the secret out. And she seems like the other only besides Vision that has autonomy of what's going on. Away from Wanda controlling her.
Yeah. That may be. She seems very aware. Her and Herb seem very aware. Dottie didn't seem as aware, but Herb and Agnes do. And I have another picture of House of M of Magneto, the twins, Wanda's twins. Wanda's there. Quicksilver's there. Mm-hmm. Another sister whose name I forget is also there. And so House of M, House of Magneto. We saw a hint of this on the wine bottle called House of Misery in the first episode. Now, of course, they can't call the House of Magneto an MCU because there is no Magneto yet, right? Yeah. Magneto doesn't exist. So it seems like they've remixed this in a way that, and I think you may be onto something, Damon, because like in House of M, Quicksilver is the one that suggests to Wanda to say, well, it wasn't just create your own reality. He was like, give the Avengers their greatest dreams. They're like, grant their wishes, make them happy. So she basically creates a world where not only she's happy, but all the Avengers have like some of their greatest dreams come true. So it's a little bit on a wider scale what happens in House of M, because she changes the earth. Yeah. Now they did it a little bit more specific in WandaVision so far, where it's just affecting a town in New Jersey. But in House of M, she controlled all of reality on Earth. Yeah. And I think also in space, because some of the other outer space beings were also affected by her changing reality as everyone knew it, which is pretty powerful. And so we're seeing this. Powerful. Yeah. And thank you, Blue Wolf, because he actually named the other sister I was talking about, Polaris. She's the other sister. Polaris. She's the other sister. So what we're getting, it seems, is a smaller version of House of M, or a more micro version of House of M, because she's not controlling all of reality as we know it. She's controlling the small town in Jersey. It might be leaking out to the rest of reality. Now,
she's not using the twins as the reason for this. Is using the Vision and Quicksilver's death as the pain of why she's not right in the head and making this reality.
Exactly. So the question now is, as some people are saying, some people are putting, and let us know in the chat and also in the replay, do you still think, though, that Wanda is the sole reason all of this is happening? Because I think you and I, Damon, are coming to the conclusion that, yes, Wanda plays a big part and it is her powers. But I think you and I are still leaning towards the fact that there's something else, something more sinister than a woman scorned or a woman in deep grief going on here.
I believe someone else is there. I know for certain that Agnes plays a very, very big part in what's going on. She's in the first episode when we seen her trying to help out with the dinner. Mm-hmm. It's like she's always helpful, but she's not shocked she wasn't shocked by the lobster hanging on the door. Like, she's not shocked by things that's going on.
Yeah.
When everybody else stops and be like, huh? Mm-hmm. Got to bring them back. Like, she's not shocked about nothing. She actually was wondering why Geraldine was in there. Mm-hmm. I believe she's more. I know she's not under any control in there.
Mm-hmm. So your theory is that Agnes is Agatha, right?
Yeah, and she's there to help out.
with Mephisto. So you think Mephisto is gonna? And it's funny enough, I did see him trending.
Mephisto, or it's her son, Nicholas Scratch.
Nicholas Scratch, who she named her bunny, Mr. Scratch.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on this. I just think that it can't. I mean, them not naming who Agnes is, the whole idea of Dr. Scratch, why that name? And I did see Mephisto trending. So I do think others are having the idea, because I just can't see all of WandaVision being about trying to bring Wanda back from the brink of madness. I can't see it being just solely that. It's just my thing. I just think that's a little limited. And for that to be revealed in episode 4, the question then is, so, okay, are the next, we have 9 episodes, right? It's like 8 or 9 episodes. So are the next 4 to 5 episodes just going to be about trying to bring Wanda down?
I mean,
like, is that really what it is?
From their outlook on it, from when Monica comes out and says it's Wanda, that's what they're going to see. But I believe somebody else using her powers, how she changing the reality to have them. I believe it's going to be linked to her having the kids. That's what I mean. But I believe it's going to be, the same. It's going to be similar to all that. They're taking the House of M, but they're going to use her having the kids with Mephisto, mix that in with the House of M, being that that's 2 different, comic book storylines. They're going to put those together. Make the grief of the House of M, instead of being about the kids, it's going to be about the husband or the lover and the brother, and Mephisto or the other guy, the guy who they eventually became a part of, is behind the scenes using her. That's what I believe is going on. We ain't gonna find out till later on.
Yeah,
but we know they're not gonna make her be the full-on villain.
Yeah, I just can't see that being the case, especially with how much potential she has, especially if she's gonna be in Doctor Strange. Red Eyes is saying in the chat, I think Wanda is the sole reason, but there may be another reason in the background, maybe Agnes waiting to snatch those kids from Wanda. Perhaps. Because the thing is, Agnes was bringing up the babies early. She was like, well, when are you guys going to start a family? She seemed very gung-ho about her somehow having a baby and babies and things like that. There was one panel, and I didn't get a chance to get it, to show it for this one, but maybe I'll put it in the comments somehow or something, or a link to it. Afterwards, there's a panel, and I believe it's from House of M, where Vision is trying to plead with Wanda that things aren't real, that that what she's doing in this reality isn't real. And this was a plot line in which she accidentally killed Vision. And the argument they have is, and Wanda's really mad. She's very grief stricken, and she's basically yelling at Vision. She's like, you're not even real. She keeps yelling at Vision, like, you're not even real. But Vision, seemingly aware, is like, this doesn't help anything. So they might be playing on that, but I just feel like if she has the power to create entities that have autonomy to think against her or think separate of her, then I don't know. I feel like there's a chance to bring Vision back. But I did want to point out that it has happened in the comics where Vision has confronted her after he's supposedly dead. The question is, will that affect to bring him back? And let's just say, in the comics, Vision has died so many times. In the comics, he has gotten killed so many times. He has gotten dismantled, deactivated, torn apart. Wanda has accidentally killed this man. And so I feel like it would be short-sighted to let him stay dead, especially with all of this. But we'll see. I know the actor has a couple of years on contract with MCU, so... and so does, of course, Wanda, Elizabeth Olsen as well. Blue Wolf is saying in the chat, isn't Agnes the one who showed her how to use her powers? Yes, that's what Damon was talking about. Yeah.
Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, it was Agatha.
That's who we think. Yeah, that's who we think. That's who I think Agnes is. Going by the brooch that Agatha wears. I mean, they with the times they changing it from like a brooch to a necklace. But it's similar. I don't know if Agatha has the 3 people on hers that Agnes has on hers, but it's very similar, very, very similar.
Yeah. Michael Damien in the chat is saying, what if it's those aliens that can shapeshift in Captain Marvel? Maybe Scree or Skrull. Are they around?
That's what Wu wrote on the board.
Mm-hmm.
He was asking who's doing this. And we know that they already here, besides the Captain Marvel, at the end of the Spider-Man Far From Home, you seen that the two Skrulls, one posed like Nick Fury and the other one posed like Maria Hill.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, so we already know that they're here. It could be, it could be. I mean, it wouldn't be far from it, especially with Wanda having the kids, because we know that Wiccan actually marries a Kree Skrull hybrid. That's who Hawking is.
Yeah, Hawking. Yeah,
like the pose like the Hawk, but he's actually a Kree and a Skrull. He a hybrid of a Kree and a Skrull.
So there's so many ways they can bring this in. And for those of you who are watching, I brought up a picture of House of M, another one of the things of House of M, where it's the infamous line in House of M that Wanda says, "No more mutants." Now, some people, and this is another theory, some people are saying that what House of M that they're using for MCU is the reverse of what was originally used in the comics. Now, the way to explain this very quickly is the fact of House of M. What happened was when they confronted Wanda about the fact that she had changed reality and things like that, she got really mad because Magneto Magneto in his fury killed Quicksilver again. Wanda brought him back because she can do that. She can bring people back from the dead. She basically said, all of this is your fault to Magneto. And she says, no more mutants. And what happens is she creates another reality. She disappears. She creates another reality where most of the mutants have lost their powers. So she basically gets rid of the X-Men or a good amount of, those who are with powers. So what some people are theorizing, I think this may be in bringing in how they might have sat down and like, well, how do we bring in the X-Men if they haven't been mentioned this whole time in our MCU?
Invent mutants.
That they're doing a backwards version where somewhere in this Wanda makes it so there are people with powers, more people with powers. Maybe she doesn't call them mutants because that's, maybe not a term that she uses, but in some reality or some way, what Wanda is doing brings about this change of reality of people with powers. And because it has to happen somehow, right? We have to be able to, unless it's multiverse.
If you think about it, it's already in this because S.H.I.E.L.D. was already part of this MCU universe. They did the thing with they called it Terragenesis or something, where with the Inhumans and everything, how I guess you become a certain age. This might work on a human too. You throw the shard on the thing, and when the dust hits you, if you got a power, it'll show itself.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a chromosome that gets activated.
The power is in you already. So exactly. To me, I thought they already explained how you could be a mutant.
But they never talked about, because Professor Xavier and them have not made an appearance yet. They haven't. So they have to explain that. And it's the same thing with Fantastic Four. They have to explain how these people come into being. And here you have this character who's a bit unstable right now, who can basically control reality. So maybe she brings all these multiverses together. Maybe she changes it and it bleeds somehow. But we know something can happen. And that's what people are theorizing, that House of M they're using House of M to reverse what House of M put forward, which is the idea of bringing mutants and other beings that aren't in the MCU yet into the MCU. How exactly they do that, we don't know. But yeah.
If they try to do that, and they saying that she's not, if she's not big enough to have her own movie, that's a movie,
right?
If you go do that,
it's weird. You were showing this character who was capable of doing all this, and you decided not to give her own movie.
You're like, wow.
I'm like, okay. I mean, all right, but I get it, because Captain Marvel is the one that, because I remember there was a whole debate, who's the most powerful Avenger? And a lot of people said Captain Marvel, but some people were like, well, actually it should be Scarlet Witch. Yeah. But others, I was one of the people, I was like, well, technically she doesn't have the powers, or they never showed it anyway, of her comic book counterpart. So technically she's not the strongest unless she gets her powers from the comics that they don't show her having.
That's what I mean.
But if that happens now, she becomes the most powerful Avenger.
She don't know yet.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways it can go.
Once you get to learn that hexing, it's woo, just no.
No, I agree with you, and that's what's going to be really interesting if this comes into fruition the way we're saying it. But yeah, let us know in the chat and also in the replay your thoughts on this and whether or not you kind of agree with my House of M theory that this is the way to bring in other beings that haven't been here before, or if you think we're completely off, and whether or not you agree that Agnes could indeed be Agatha, or what the heck is with that pentagram that we saw. So, Damon, question that we asked in the beginning, which was, which character did you identify with or like the most this episode, and which character did you were you not feeling as much this episode? And let us know in the chat and also in the replay.
I liked it Darcy the most. I liked how she came in there, and it's like when she got there, that's when things became more clear. Mm-hmm. So she helped us find out what was basically going on. It ain't nobody that I didn't like though. I liked it. Everybody in the everybody gave me something. Yeah. Everybody gave me something. Everybody. Except maybe I didn't like the beehive guy. I don't know.
Our red shirt, which no one talked about after he disappeared. Poor red shirt. Poor beehive guy. Where is beehive guy? That is the question. Yeah, for me, I liked Wu the best, but I kind of identified the most with Darcy, where you're in a situation where everyone's like, yeah, and like they can't see the forest for the trees, and you're like, okay, but did anyone just stop and kind of think about this for a second? So I really, like you said, I love the fact that she came in and was able to open up things a bit more. And yeah, there wasn't really anyone I disliked this episode. I'm not going to say I'm with people who are a little bit disappointed that it seems like they're playing on the unstable Wanda trope or the unstable woman trope, but I was kind of hoping that Wanda would be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more dazed and kind of not knowing that she had done that to Monica. But clearly Wanda has some sort of understanding that she is a part of whatever is happening. So that was definitely established.
They building the character up. She at a low point, they're gonna build it back up.
Yeah. Yeah. Others are saying they liked Darcy's character, things like that. Other people are talking about the budget right now, but they got Disney money, y'all. Disney has money no matter what is going on in the world. If they can do Doctor Strange and all these other movies, they could have done all these other
TV shows. They got a lot of stuff coming this phase 4.
Exactly. Red Eyes is asking a question. If he transformed into a beekeeper, how did Wanda know he didn't belong there but didn't with Monica? Exactly. The question is, how was she aware of this dude coming out of the sewer? Let's be real. That just seemed kind of weird.
Sword emblem on the back of his.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe she seen the sword emblem, and that was like because she just seen a plane. She didn't notice the chain, I guess, until they really got into it. And she finally looks down and say, "What's that? What's that on you? What's that chain on?"
So also, how did the chain get to stay there too? Was that some kind of? I mean, if all her clothing and stuff is changed, how is that thing of her? But because she's from somewhere outer,
it changes.
Not there.
Yeah, it was changing with I guess with everybody's with the outfits, just like Agnes thing in the first one. It was actually like a brooch thing, like how it in the comic book it'd be. When she came in this episode, it was on a thing. It was on it just like
Agnes has a symbol that's on her, and like you are saying, Damon, it's not there just to be there. There's something significant. Agnes ain't from Jersey, y'all. I think that's what we're all establishing. She ain't from Jersey. Mm-hmm. She's supposed to be there for other reasoning. Blue Wolf in the chat is saying her powers is what makes her unstable. Wanda, if anything, her powers make her dangerous. Maybe. I mean, but she needs, like you're saying, Damon, she needs to get to a point to control them because she's at a very deep place of grief. And the question is, who's going to pull her out? And I think people are theorizing that it's going to have to be Doctor Strange that does this somehow. So we'll see where that goes.
But you can see why they got sword there and why also he changed the name from it being observation of space to observation of just weapons, anything they could consider a weapon. You already that's leading because she's a weapon. You know, so
and whose weapon is she at the moment? Is the real question.
Exactly.
So she ain't Thor's weapon. So who's using her? Who's using Wanda? I think that's the question because I don't think Wanda is completely pulling all the strings here.
Exactly.
But yes, y'all, thanks so much for joining us for this breakdown, full breakdown, Easter eggs, theories. We got so many theories. I'm still going to hold on to the Wanda Point thing that some of us were talking about, Flashpoint versus Wanda Point. I still think there's a chance we might get some multiverse stuff from all of this as things leak out. So keep that in mind, y'all. We copyrighted it in our hearts about the multiverse.
And the snap, because the blip,
I don't know why it's always the blip. It's like what? Like Thanos literally snapped his fingers. Why would you call it a blip? I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. And Blue Wolf is saying she's basically a level 5 mutant. She can literally destroy it. No, I think she's a level 10 because Storm in X-Men is level 10.
She's up there. Whatever
she's up there with Storm.
Yeah, she's up there.
For those of you who don't know, Storm is from the X-Men. She's the one of my fave characters as well. Her and Dark Phoenix, not Jean Grey, but her and Dark Phoenix are my fave, and they're level 10 mutants, which is one of the highest. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Anyway, we're not gonna get. We can use a whole nother program to debate the usefulness of certain X-Men characters. But yes, she might be level 10. I think with the power she has, if you really think about it. So I guess we'll see where that goes.
We're gonna be looking at her like she is a level 10.
Yeah. Oh, they will. And how does she come back from this? That's the question, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dallas Jones is with us on the snap versus the blip. Yes, Dallas. Ooh. Yes. Why? What is the blip? What is that? People didn't bounce out. No, it wasn't a pop.
He blitzed it.
What is that? I don't even get it. Whatever. Okay, y'all. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, if there's anything you think we missed or any theories that you have, please let us know in the replay in the comment section. And we'll talk about it more in the next episode because, I think things are really getting intense from here. So we'll see a lot more reveals as we go on. We all got our theories. And I think, Damon and I put ours out there and we'll see how far that goes. But let us know in the comment section your thoughts as well. And also, like I said, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and to join us for next week as we dig more into WandaVision. And for those of you who are watching Stephen King's The Stand, Michael and I do the weekly rundown of that for those of you who are pushing through Stephen King's The Stand, I should say, on CBS, because not everyone's loving it right now. And so, you can watch that. And I also have a new horror movie review, The Queen of Black Magic, if you'd like to check that out as well.
That's the first time we heard it called The Blip was in Spider, was some kids and
they made The Blip. Well, that's why you can't listen to kids.
I don't know if y'all noticed though, at the end of the first episode, at the credits was going down, one of the names, it was Abe Brown. That's the on the Spider. That's one of Spider-Man's friends that I guess he was in Homecoming. He was one of the kids. Know what I mean? They link. It's a lot of different links in this thing. Yeah. A lot going on.
A lot going on. It's a lot to deal with. And so we'll dive into it even more later. But thank you all for joining us. And
we didn't even get into the names of what the names meant, like Herb. We didn't even get into none of that.
Well, what did you have? You didn't tell me you had a theory about that.
Well, I don't think Herb is this person because he just don't seem like he's too aware to be. But remember the High Evolutionary. His real name is actually Herbert.
Oh, so you think Herbert might be the High Evolutionary?
No, guy? I don't think him. It's just being that these are not their names. These are names that she's actually given them.
If she's the one giving them the names,
what do they symbolize?
Yeah.
Why is John Collins called Herb? Why
I think everyone who's actually in New Jersey isn't really anyone significant. I think it's the people that can't be traced to Jersey that we need to be thinking about. Right. So Herb already got his name, so I don't think Herb is part of it, although he seems somewhat aware, but I don't think he's part of that necessarily. But yeah, see, we could talk about these theories all night long, y'all. We really could, but we'll talk about it more next week. Everyone stay safe out there. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, let's get creepy together. Night, everybody.